Well, I think that it's really easy for some people get stuck in the planning process, and I can cop to that occasionally happening to me. And if we go willy-nilly at a project because we have a few ideas and we have some infrastructure or money, or both ideally, to move something along, not necessarily having a plan, and again with the goals, like putting the goals of what I'm trying to accomplish in my life into the focus, and then radiating out from there. How does this support that goal? How does this support that goal? How does this support the thing that supports getting to that goal? And if we don't do any of that, I find that it's easy for people to end up in a place that is much different than what they had intended originally, and what actually serves their personal process. I think that environmental degradation, interpersonal degradation, economic degradation, all of those things and more can come into play when we don't do appropriate planning, when we don't, and I say appropriate as if I know what appropriate planning is, but putting energy towards planning generally is a good idea. And I feel strongly that doing that examination does yield better responses. Or results, better results. An example of how that might show up would be, I want to build a house and I want to have a garden and I have a raw piece of land, just as an example. So I can look at that and say, well, here is going to be the best view. I walked on this piece of land, it's got a bunch of trees on it, and I'm saying like, oh, here looks like a good spot. It's near this cool rock, and I know that if I cut down a few trees, I'll be able to see this view, and that will be wonderful. And of course, most people are going to do more planning than just considering that before they build a house from scratch. And to be specific, okay, well, let's consider not just the view and not just how many trees are going to come out, but further, what other trees are going to be impacted by the site development. How big is that area of development going to need to be, even just in the construction, even if it's a small house? Where is all the waste and water flows going to be going? What other energy flows, including, wind and just air currents? How are they moving in the landscape? So considering those a little bit more fully and getting perspective from multiple areas around that land in the physical way, but also areas of the person who is doing that development's, mental space and energetic space, and communicating with the neighbors. All of those things could be considered in the plan. And so if more in-depth planning is engaged with under those kinds of circumstances, generally the result would be less of the, I wish I had thought about this before, and just a little bit further. And there's a limit. There's a limit to how far we can go with the planning before we just have to take action. So it is complicated.